Well, thank you, Chris, for taking time to meet with me today. I appreciate it very much. And just thought it would be fun to kind of go through and ask you a few questions about your experience as you and I work together. And just want to hear your opinions and see if there was any value for you in the time that we spent together. Sound good?
Sounds great.
All right, great. Well, the first question I really had for you is when we first met and started chatting, what was the biggest challenge that you were facing when you decided to work with me?
Well, I was facing a major life transition. I am transitioning from active duty Army back to the civilian world. I've been a chaplain for about the last 10 years and struggling with the decision of whether and how to continue in ministry, whether to go into business full time. Most of my experience prior to the Army was in nonprofit work. And so I was kind of struggling with that. Hey, if I've been in ministry for 28 years, is it time to retire, do something else, or
Sure.
plow right back into what I know, which is raising money for great causes.
Sure.
Struggling with that decision.
And so how was, as you were kind of going through and dealing with all this, how was it affecting you personally, your circle, the people that you're close to? How did you see that playing out in your life?
Well, the most difficult part is that some of the jobs I was being interviewed for, looked at for, were distant from where we live now, and the family feels very settled. My second child is off to school, so we'll have 2 in college, and then our youngest has 3 more years of high school, and he goes to the high school where his mom teaches. So they feel kind of stationary, and I felt pulled in a direction other than staying here in Huntsville. So
Sure.
that was kind of preventing us from getting everybody on the same page about what
Sure.
I'm doing next.
Makes sense. And thanks for your transparency with that. What made you want to work with me?
Well, I had lunch with a guy named Jim Morris, who is the franchise owner of the Alternative Board here in Huntsville. And he mentors people like me. And while we didn't have anything but an informal friendship, in talking to me, he just felt like one of the best things he could do for me would be to refer me to you. So he did, and he's a wonderfully capable and competent fella. So
Yes, he is.
I followed his advice, trusted his advice, and was not displeased with your capability in coming alongside me and helping me make this decision.
Very well. Thank you for that. I appreciate that very much. That means a lot. So as you were going through the process up until we started working together, what would you say was this might be too harsh of a word, but what was preventing you from really solving this problem independently and making the decision on your own? What was getting you stuck?
Well, I think what always gets me stuck is I don't trust myself to make the right decision based on the right information, and so sometimes my instincts are from my faith, and sometimes I think they are but they aren't, and sometimes I think they aren't but they are. And as the scripture says, with many counselors or advisors, a plan succeeds. So I always seek out other people's perspectives. And one of the most annoying gifts God ever gave to anyone is wisdom to my wife. So So there's a lot of things that I'd like to do. Just run ahead of the Lord and do, just whatever. And she kind of pulls me back into an appropriate and expedient pace for discernment about big decisions. So I am paired well.
Yes, yes, you are. And as I think back over the time that we spent together, Chris, I know that the catalyst for us working together was the job transition, moving on from being a chaplain into whatever was coming next. That was kind of the symptom. What would you say through all of this? What did you really want from this transition? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, I think, since we've been 22 years old, we really have a passion for trying to hear from God and open our hands and receive whatever he has for us. And making sure that that is what we're doing, that we're not just walking through open doors that are open for reasons that have nothing to do with his leading and guidance.
Right.
And so we're very prayerful and careful about big decisions, which doesn't mean I don't flip out in my interior life. It doesn't mean that I don't have, what we call in the Army, the good idea fairy. I have
Mhm.
lots of great ideas, but discerning the best, what is God's best, and that's the
Sure.
struggle as we take these opportunities, each in their own right, and hold them up to the light.
Yep. Yep. That makes a lot of sense. So as you were going through the decision-making process, seeking God's leadership, God's direction for you and your family, um, how did how did this process that you were going through, how did it affect other areas of your life, whether it's, maybe financial or relationship or the work that you're doing, health, spiritual, what effects was this uh challenge that you were facing having on your life as a whole?
Well, I think the real problem for me was the pressure that I was feeling to uh, to fill in the gap between my retirement income, my disability pension from the Army, and what I had been making as a major in the Army. So that gap really put a lot of pressure on me, and because of that pressure, I feel like in not just my flesh, but in our flesh, we have a tendency to be drawn toward solving the problem, pulling ourselves up by our own bootstraps, being
Mhm.
independent and, proving to the world that we're as valuable as we think we are. Um, and so finding peace and rest, if you're being drawn after, hey, I got to solve this problem, is especially for me, it's the hard part.
Yeah. And so as you were working through all of this, and I think it's natural, we all kind of project forward, the kind of the what if scenarios. What if I do plan A? What if I do plan B? What if I do plan C? What were you seeing as the consequences long term of the impact this decision would have on you and your family?
I think hardest on those of us who are in the military is the fact that our children have to move a lot, have to go through a whole lot of
Sure.
transition, turmoil, making new friends, that sort of thing. And so it's difficult to make uh, any of my children, if I have the power, so to speak, if I have the control over the decision, and I'm the one who, it's not the Army telling me I've got to go, then we're all just kind of accepting. But But if I'm the one making the decision, if I'm the one saying, hey,
Yeah.
we're up and moving to Washington, D.C., where nobody wants to live, then, that's kind of on me, and I don't have the Army to blame for it.
Sure.
So I think that has been the biggest impact. My wife is settled in her job, likes her job, respected by her colleagues where she teaches. And our son is, got 3 more years at the same school where she teaches, and we live right up
Yeah.
the road, and it's all very convenient. So disrupting that was another pressure I felt on myself.
Sure.
How am I going to provide for the family? Am I going to put pressure on them to disrupt their lives? So that was a big piece of the conundrum.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and spoiler alert, you did select your new position, last I heard. So congratulations on that.
Thank you.
So as we're kind of just wrapping up, what would you say as you look back again over the time that we spent together? What would you say were the top 2 or 3 benefits that you felt after working with me?
Well, I've had various kinds of mentors, various kinds of spiritual directors. Seldom have they sort of both fit in the same one person. Usually I have a professional mentor, and then I have a spiritual director who doesn't really care, what happens, what the consequences are. They're just concerned on the state of your heart.
Sure.
And I just, given sort of the complexity of my background and capabilities and what I could do and what I should do, all of which was really hard for me. I really needed somebody who was both a mentor who would give wise counsel, but also somebody who could observe, hey, this tension is between some of the pull of the soul toward things that don't have anything to do with the kingdom of God, and then there's that call on your life to move toward who you are becoming, and then doing as an extension of being. And so I really respected the way that you carefully listen, not just to the content, but for the tone and the meaning behind the message. And sometimes it's difficult because people smoke screen, and we're sort of trying to pass our own nonsense off as wisdom, to kind of create this buffer between what's really going on inside of us and what other people know. And so I think it was a valuable thing that, I'm kind of used to being very honest and open, and just kind of, hey, I'm sinking, help. And so I just hope that as people work with you, they will give you that same level of trust, because I think another thing is that you're trustworthy with those inner turmoil, inner struggle, just exposing that and letting the Spirit of God in you speak into people's lives, which I think is one of your gifts.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. I got chills. Well, again, Chris, thanks for taking time to do this with me. I just want to say it was an honor to work with you, and I appreciate the transparency that you had in our conversations. I appreciate you hearing some of the things that I said and the way that they were intended. And I applaud you for the work that you did, and congratulate you again on the successful outcome in your job search. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Very grateful to God for you, and may He go before you, prepare the way, and allow you to be a blessing to many others.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Chris.